everybody, and welcome back to You Can't Win. This is Tom here, and I'm joined by Don as usual. Today we're going to be doing a little bit of like a state of the podcast type of thing, a little bit of discussion about where we want to take this and what our ideas are for the future. We also need to sort of address something about the schedule of how we're releasing episodes. That's going to be different for at least the very short term, maybe like a month or so. Yeah, maybe Don, do you want to explain what's going on with that?
Okay, so we already talked a little bit about this on the premium if you subscribe, and so the basic idea is that I've been getting a lot of like headaches and stuff and just not really being able to record. We've had to cancel all sorts of times. We just had to sort of take a step back and, you know, see what we were doing in terms of the more long term and you know, we're doing this, you know, for you guys and for fun and stuff, and like, you know, we don't. It's silly to kind of go. You know, you wouldn't want to listen to it if I'm just sitting here with a migraine or something like that kind of thing. So there's no point in us stretching it like that. But like,
you should hear the things he says when he's got a migraine.
no,
not arable at all.
Sure. So I've got a doctor's appointment in a few weeks now, and hopefully they'll be able to give me something or whatever, and we'll see how that goes. And so it's just day to day. It's hard to say like, okay, we're going to record on Tuesday night or something like that, just because you know, my health has been even more spotty than usual and that kind of stuff. So we're going to keep plugging away and putting out stuff, but we're going to try to big picture it instead of hit specific days like we usually do, unless it works out like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, like, we've been doing this 2.5 years, I think, maybe a little even more than that. Mm-hmm. And I think we sort of figured out what we like to talk about on here, what makes for a show that we like and that the people that listen like, to some extent. You know, there are some dissenting opinions now and then, but I think generally we got it figured out.
Yeah.
And so I feel like, and I think, Don, you and I kind of talked before we start recording, I think we're both on the same page here. The weekly format it's good in some ways, but it's also kind of limiting. There are some sort of like, I've been thinking of them as like project episodes. So like, you know, we did that Epstein episode or a few of those. And then we did one episode on William Dudley Pelley with the intention of doing a series that hasn't continued yet. It's been a little bit difficult to really like swing that while maintaining this more strict schedule of like every Monday, every Thursday we have an episode out. Mm-hmm. So the idea for now, we're sort of like rethinking like what's the best way to use our time, what's the best way to line things up for us. So I think we both want to pursue like these different project episodes that we have. Yeah, I really am interested in doing that kind of stuff, and maybe a little less of the kind of like week by week sort of thing that we do.
Yeah.
We still will be doing that for the Patreon episodes for sure. I think that's not something I want to abandon.
Yeah.
So weekly episodes on the Patreon will continue. That we're able to kind of get one episode a week at least. You know, that hasn't been too difficult.
Sure.
But it's doing two that can sometimes be problematic if we have to cancel once or twice. It sort of makes it difficult for everyone's schedules to line up, you know?
Yeah. Like, for an example, like a lot of the times we'll record on Saturday night for the public episode or something like that. And that might be with guests that we've got lined up. If I end up feeling sick on the Saturday night, there's not really a strong window. Like, we can't really record on the Sunday night if we want to get it out for Monday morning, edited and all that kind of stuff. So it's really like there's like a small window when I have to be on, and it's almost like insulting to the guests to have them on or something like that kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's like to kind of power through it kind of thing, you know? Like, so what ends up happening is that kind of blows out that week for us in terms of like, we'll have to put something together on the Sunday or something, and it can't be the topic we planned really, and because we might not be able to get that guest again and all that kind of stuff. So this way, I think that if we're kind of more looser on how the weekly public ones go, we can record on, you know, any day of the week really, then we're not doing the bonus one or whatever, and then we can get it out when we can, and then we're not like, oh, okay, well, it doesn't even matter really if we have the guest on the Sunday because we won't be able to get it out for the Monday. We just record something and then we get it out when we can, and that's a lot better for the quality of the show. It's not good for the hitting the mark, but it's good for the quality of the show then to do that. So
Yeah. It also lets us do a little bit more of what we want to do rather than being so constrained by like the limits of the time, and then like if it's especially crunched for time because of you like not feeling well, or sometimes I'm not able to do it too. So I think this buys us a little bit of time to do things that we really like genuinely like we've been wanting to do some of these things for a while,
Sure.
So this seems like a good opportunity to kind of like turn a negative into a positive here.
Yeah, and I think that's probably enough on the state of the pod in terms of the mechanics of it. I'm not sure how much interest there is on beyond that, but like maybe we can just, at least I can kind of like preface, maybe like foreshadow whatever, like what I want to work on too more over the next few months and stuff in terms of like the kind of episodes that I'm interested in working on. And I guess part of it is that so I've been lucky for a few years now in terms of like I just have like a well of things that interested me over the years and stuff, and people that I've been lucky to talk to and stuff like that about different Marxist kind of stuff or Christian kind of stuff. And so at some level it's been easier as the time goes on to sort of people will give a suggestion about maybe something about like Trotskyism or something like that. I have like a basic kind of spiel on that I can give after taking a few notes and just trying to think about what I'm interested in. And then beyond that, I can kind of give little critiques of like what's going on today in terms of the debates that I find weird and all that kind of stuff. But there's sort of a step that has to happen where it's like, okay, the shift, the sort of like handover from, okay, what did I learn 10 years ago or something like that, and then stuff that I'm learning now and are interested in now, and kind of like things I think are important. And especially when it comes to Marxist sort of stuff that isn't really talked about as much as I can tell on other pods and stuff like that, or like just in the general things that I think are interesting, instead of just sort of like sniping about this or that, or like just criticizing this or that. More kind of like a positive vision of different ideological debates and stuff like that based on things that I'll be reading over the next year or two. And I think part of that is also sort of like related debates around like, I've been very interested in sort of like some of the business Twitter stuff, some of the stuff around financial stuff, the new economics kind of stuff that's coming out. And I have a lot of opinions on that kind of stuff, but like, I do have certain basic things I want to work through in terms of like the economics of it. And I think that these are the kind of things that would make good sort of like series or sub-series kind of things, episodes that I can work on. But they're impossible to do week to week in terms of like, okay, we're going to throw something together on this so that we can hit that mark or something like that. These are things that I'll have to work on and get good guests for and stuff like that. And I think this will help, I think, with that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm not sure if you wanted to talk a bit about some of the things we were thinking about too.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, first of all, I just want to say I'm pretty excited about some of the things that you were talking about there. I think definitely should be cool. For my part, I'm kind of I basically what spurred this was I found a ebook app that I really like and have found it really convenient to use like all the time. It's called Freda, Freda, and it sort of just enabled me to like read a bunch of things that I've had on my like to read list for a long time, and now it's just really convenient. I'm not sure exactly why this app in particular kind of like clicked for me, but it did, and now I'm just like pouring through stuff that has kind of been on my list for a while. So right now I'm reading Program to Kill by Dave McGowan. It's that book about serial killers, and it's sort of a theory that the whole like idea of the serial killer is to some extent manufactured or exaggerated to cover up for like the true nature of a lot of these killings and stuff. I'm about halfway through it now, so I don't have the full picture yet of what he's arguing exactly, but it's definitely been interesting. And yeah, there's just kind of a whole pile of books like that I have on this list of things that I want to kind of think about and put together some sense of like kind of like a zoomed out picture of all of this kind of stuff, like these like the serial killer theory and like how that connects to organized crime. How does that connect to like these weird cults and occultic stuff, and the intelligence community, and various things, JFK, 9/11, all that kind of fun stuff. I don't know, it's all these things that I've never really looked at very seriously, but they all seem to kind of link together in a way that I feel like no one has really painted a very clear picture of what is it all supposed to be. There's a lot of like scrutinizing of official accounts and all that kind of stuff, and it's like poking holes in it, but when you put it all together, what does that actually look like? So that's something that I want to kind of get into a little bit. There's plenty of people who know a lot more about this stuff than I, and I would like to like talk to them and have them on as guests if that works out, and kind of like organize my thoughts a little bit before just getting into it. So
sure,
that's kind of what I'm thinking about. For people who are really hankering for that second part of the Dudley Pelley series, I think that will be a part of it. One of the reasons that we haven't really continued that is not just like a lack of time or energy to like do it, but also every time I kind of sit down to think about it or put stuff together for it, I kind of like spin off into other things that I want to talk about, and I kind of like I'm finding it difficult to just narrow my focus on, okay, it's this one guy and his influence. As interesting as I find it, I want to kind of work from a broader picture of the whole thing and kind of put it together in a more organized way.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm thinking. So hopefully you guys like the sound of that. Please let us know. We're really interested in any feedback that you guys have about this, whether you think it sounds good, whether you prefer the kind of like more casual weekly stuff. That's fine too. And I don't think we're trying to like give that up entirely. Like we'll still probably do little episodes where we talk about some movie we just saw or whatever, but yeah, that's just kind of what we're thinking for the podcast going forward.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it sounds good to me. I think that I think it'll work out better. I mean, a lot of this stuff is more maybe behind the scenes kind of stuff that some listeners aren't going to notice. You know what I mean at the start, but like
yeah, sure. Especially this is like your first time listening. Hi.
yeah. But like we wanted to be transparent about it and just kind of talk about it. So
yeah, and like I said, get feedback. Like if you guys have ideas. If this doesn't sound good, if it does sound good, just let us know. You can send that to the Curious Cat. You can DM the Twitter account, DM us, whatever.
Yeah. So, and then today, I guess we're going to do a question and answer episode from Discord questions. And so I think that in general, the Discord questions probably work better the closer we are to present day. And so we're going to try to make a big dent in those to get, get us closer to, so it's not like stuff like, what do you think about like Ellen being attacked by her producers or whatever, or something like that, just like, just try to get a little bit closer, and because it would be good to have a situation where we can be responsive to things that are happening, now kind of thing. So, yeah.
Yeah. So we are currently at the end of June, it looks like, with our questions. So we're a few months behind. But yeah, hopefully we can kind of catch up.
Yeah.
So speaking of, should we just like jump right into it?
Sure.
Okay. So yeah, on to questions. Okay. So this one is from Caucasian with blonde mop, he, him. It says, has Islam ever had a sex abuse crisis? So fun one to start with. This isn't something that's easy to answer yes or no to, because Islam as a whole, I don't think you can say that about, or at least it hasn't risen to the kind of notoriety of like, like Catholic priests or something.
Sure.
Which, that doesn't mean that there's not stuff like that going on. I've definitely seen like news stories about things like that happening in madrasas, and obviously you have stuff like Afghanistan with the bachabazi and all that kind of thing. To whatever extent you want to attribute that to Islam, that's kind of a separate question, but that stuff does go on in Muslim countries. But for whatever reason, there hasn't been this sort of like same kind of like massive giganto scandal on the level of like the church crisis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not like institutionalized. I mean, in a lot of what that makes the Catholic scandal unique is that it involved institutional protection in terms of like moving people around and stuff like that. It wasn't really just the abuse in itself. It was also the idea that like somehow everyone was kind of complicit in it, kind of thing. I think so. That's kind of hard to. I mean, it's hard to replicate when you don't have the same types of institutions, I think, kind of thing. So
yeah, there's probably a similar level of abuse and like quantity of abuse that goes on. It's just structurally different. I would imagine. Like I am under no illusions that like Muslim countries are just nothing really bad ever happens. Everything's good because everyone's Muslim or something. I imagine there's a lot of kind of pretty vile stuff like that going on too.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think that the obvious point is stuff that like, well, there's obviously a lot of abuse that happens in, say, schools and hospitals and stuff like that. That isn't related to religion at all. But the difference is that like it's reasonable not to have the same kind of visceral reaction in the way that like you might about towards the institution as like an institution, because there's not the rationalization and moving around and all that kind of stuff. Sure. It's more kind of like no one's going to go, okay, maybe a small number of people would go, it's the problem with schools in themselves or something like that. But like it's different if you have this culture of shame around sex and all this kind of stuff, and bearing your soul to a priest and all this kind of stuff, so I can understand it. I think that I could see how certain things could end up similar in terms of like people could say that Islam does have certain taboos around sex or something like that. You could say that or something like that, but it's not really the same institutionally, so there's not the hypocrisy involved. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think like you probably, if we're thinking about the protection stuff, that probably occurs more under like government sort of umbrellas, which is true with the church too, right? Like that's kind of, a lot of that kind of works hand in hand. It's probably more centered on stuff that's like more like a government type of or like some sort of secular institutional thing rather than a religious thing necessarily. Although, like I said, it has, there's been stuff with madrasas and things like, I think I saw one in Pakistan. There was some of the people that were in charge of a madrasa. It was uncovered that they were like, doing all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
And then there's like all these like grooming gangs was like a big thing in the UK. I understand that was like overblown or something by right-wing media, but it's probably something to that. I mean, it's probably something like that going on. I mean, I don't know the extent of it, but
sure,
all kinds of weird stuff. But yeah. Anyway, let's move on. So the next one's from Sami. He says, "Should Hannibal have marched on Rome?" I honestly don't know much about like. I don't know what to base my opinion on here. I don't know enough about it.
Yeah, me either. I'm not sure. So I'll say yes.
Yeah, marching on Rome's probably always a good thing.
Might as well.
Yep. Okay. Next one is from Born to Ready. Would you guys ever visit Iraq or Afghanistan?
I don't know. I feel like they would be cool places to visit. They're probably on my list above some other places, maybe. But I don't know. I don't know. I think they're probably beautiful places to visit in a lot of places, but like I don't know. I don't really know much about the culture really, and it'd be weird to like go there just because I know a little bit about it through like the Iraq War or stuff like that kind of thing. You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, this is that place 500 people got shot.
yeah. Ah, cool. I'm in the Sunni Triangle or something. Yeah, like.
All right, let's get some shawarma.
Yeah. So, but yeah.
Yeah, I've always wanted to go to Afghanistan for like just touristic kind of reasons. I think the geography is really amazing. It looks like a really beautiful country, and I'm really interested in the history of Central Asia and that region. So I would love to visit like all the historical sites and that kind of stuff. Not just even particularly Afghanistan, but other countries in that area. It's just, I don't know if it is a good thing to do right now, you know?
Sure. Yeah.
Iraq too, same kind of thing. Like, yeah, I'd be interested in it, but the conditions would kind of have to line up.
Yeah. With Afghanistan, I mean, I have had like a minor interest in like broader Central Asia kind of stuff, South Asia. Like, I mean, I went to Xinjiang, so that kind of counts. It's sort of in the mega region or something, but like, so I think it would be cool to visit some of those places, some of the stands and all that. But like, yeah, as it stands, like I'm not really, I don't know, like, I'm finding it a big hassle, and I can't really go to Chicago, so it's like, or like to
Right.
like Montreal or something like that is too big of a mountain right now. So yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see. All right. Next one is from Whole Nother. He says, "Is the United States a wealthy nation?" Seems to me like it's got to be a yes on that one, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Especially all the love. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very wealthy in love. No. I guess it is, but although like, I don't know, it is one of those countries where the extremes are pretty, you know, the high and the low are pretty, you know.
Yeah, the inequality is extreme. Yeah.
Like if you wanted to pick like a random person in a country, there's probably a lot of other countries where like being a random person is better off elsewhere, kind of thing.
Monaco or something.
Yeah, or like Denmark or something, you know, like
Vatican City.
Yeah, sure. But you know, the actual country, I think I always find that like with you know, Canada used to be sort of it's like slightly poorer. It used to be at least slightly poorer than the United States, kind of thing, in different ways.
Like per capita.
Yeah, and I don't know if it still is, but I'm sure it like washes out in different ways. Like it's more that the United States has a lot more like of it's different things. It's like the fact that like some of Americans' income goes to health insurance and stuff like that, so that's not really, it's not plugged in the same way in Canada or different ways, you know, like. And I'm sure it's partly that, but like that has always been like a thing for me, is that like it's always surprising to me how like American people that I knew that were sort of like scraping by a lot of the time, they would say, or like saying they were poor, were doing things that like I associate with like middle class life kind of thing, you know, like always being like, I've got no money whatsoever, and I've got to like fly home for Christmas, and I'd be like, what the hell are you talking about? Like flying home for Christmas? I don't know. Just like, it's like, there's things that like, you know, like flying around and or like, you know, being like, they're like, I've got so big student loans, I'm just basically never going to be able to pay them back. And then being like, I'm going on a vacation next week to Florida or something like that. And you're like, okay, well, like, I don't know. Like, to me, I don't know. It's just, I agree with it completely, is like, that's fine. Like, I'm not like saying it's bad or anything like that. Like, I think it's surprising to me because my notions of what being completely broke are like different, I think, than a lot of like Americans that I've experienced. Now that's probably just a class thing in terms of like, you know, it's people from certain types of backgrounds that are broke, but they've got a certain type of background where, you know, there's like a certain minimum and stuff like that. And I'm one of those kind of people in the sense that like, you know, my parents are well off enough that like I'm not gonna like starve, kind of thing, you know. and also, I mean, it's just changed over time where I was more broke in the past and stuff like that. So, but yeah, anyway, so that's always surprised me with Americans is that like their understanding of what poor is sometimes, doesn't match up with mine. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's probably true to some extent for like Americans generally, but I think it's like really, you see it really strongly on Twitter.
Yeah.
And perhaps left Twitter specifically even.
Yeah.
Because there's sort of like an incentive to LARP as like an impoverished prole or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
That's one thing I have seen on Twitter, like people saying they make like 3-4 times as much as I do annually, and then asking for like a GoFundMe to pay rent and stuff. And I'm just like, what?
Yeah. So that kind of thing has always surprised me. And just like, I mean, I've seen it now. It's different in Canada now, I think, in terms of like I walk around certain neighborhoods and I just see all of these like luxury goods and stuff like that, and just things that are just so expensive and stuff. There's a lot of that now in Canada where I didn't really feel like, I at least didn't notice it in the past as much, but like, but I feel like that in the States where like, if I'm walking around certain neighborhoods, it just feels like, certain places in Chicago, certain places in New York, and certain places in Washington or whatever, it just felt like, I don't know, like almost like a palace or something like that. Like, like a,
yeah.
Like you just see all of these things that you just know cost like incredible amounts of money, and all these expensive cars and stuff. And I don't know, it feels like Dubai or something like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I remember when I was living in Seattle and really, really broke, and just like if I was working around downtown or something, whatever it was, it just felt like everything was locked out to me, either like literally or just by the price of things.
Yeah, I wrote like a Jackman article maybe 2 years ago now or something like that. It didn't end up sort of like I don't know if it really got across what I was what I meant, but like it was about like housing costs and all that kind of stuff. And I said at the time I was like working on the title that they gave it was something like "We're right to be angry about rising housing costs" and stuff like that, which is true. And that's sort of like the point of the article, but it was also like a lot of what I was writing about in it was just that feeling of, it's not just the fact that like you're walking around the city and stuff like that, and it's not just the fact that you can't really afford things, it's that you see other people enjoying them too, kind of thing, or something like that. And not just that you see other people enjoying them, but you know that a lot of those people are saying that they're working on the problems that you care about, kind of thing, or something like that kind of thing. Like it's like, if you're, and
like, it's like
voting,
a weekday too, middle of a weekday,
sure, yeah,
shouldn't they be at work?
Yeah, and like there's this whole complex of like NGOs and politicians and stuff that they'll be on TV saying things like we need to fight poverty and stuff, and it's not wrong. Like they might be actually trying to do it and all that kind of stuff, but you get this kind of feeling of eventually that it's like this, I don't know what the word is, like homeostasis or something like that, where it's just like it just continues on like that forever of people being able to live in these nice apartments and have all these great meals and go to the luxury stores and all this kind of stuff while they're saying we need things to get better. But it doesn't actually matter if anything actually does get better because, so, and I said that feeling of just walking around and having like society sort of locked out and then being told it's for your benefit or something like that is like horrifying. So I think that's my experience of a lot of American and Canadian cities. So, yeah.
So that's what a wealthy nation is all about, really. Like I was thinking about this, like probably everything we think of as a wealthy nation, either today or like through history, is characterized by pretty drastic inequality,
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah, that's the U.S.
Yep.
Okay, so let's move on to the next one here. This is from Honestly Tony. He says, Don, who's your favorite canon lawyer?
Oh, I don't know anything about this kind of stuff. No, like canon law, like sort of like Catholic. There's like some strange parallel legal system in the Catholic Church that is sort of, it runs autonomously, and it's like the way that decisions are made in the church and all that kind of stuff. A lot of the time, my perception of it is a lot of the time it's very flexible in terms of, it depends on what the Pope thinks or like what bishops think and stuff like that. Like it doesn't seem to be sort of inflexible moral law that is easily, it's impossible to get around or something like that. A lot of it seems like very situational, so I'm not really sure. But like, I don't know. I think that stuff would be interesting to learn about eventually. Right now, I know almost nothing about it though. So yeah.
So are these like laws that govern the like the papacy and the whole, like the church itself, or are these somewhat similar to like sharia in that they apply to all people of the faith?
In general, it's talking about the institutional architecture of the church, like
Okay.
the rights of priests against bishops, the rights of. I mean, I
see.
it wouldn't be like put in rights terms, I don't think, but like it's like that kind of thing. Like it's like
I get you. Yeah.
it's like it does include, I think, like laity in terms of like the, like they're ultimately governed by that in terms of like their relationship to the church, I guess, in general. But like it's more about disputes within the church kind of thing as a thing, and in some countries and in general, the government's very deferential to it, as you can imagine, and so. And there's always debates about that kind of stuff, I guess, like about how, like updating it, I guess, and all that kind of stuff. I don't really know anything about that, so
Sure. Yeah, when I read this and I kind of like, I understand it's not that type of canon, but it did make me think of like the gun canon.
Yeah.
It made me think of like the conquistadors. They would do this. Do you know what I'm about to talk about this story? No. Okay, so what they would do is if they, they were trying to conquer what they called New Spain, right? So they would have like this indigenous village of non-Christians, and they would set up their cannon, like artillery basically, and from that position, which would be like miles away from, maybe not miles, but it would be a long enough distance that like nobody in the village would hear this or see any of this. Someone would read from this like scroll in Latin. It was not in their native language, nothing they would be able to understand, but it's basically like an ultimatum that they need to convert to Christianity and accept the sovereignty of the Spanish monarchs, and that if they didn't, that they are, then it's war, right? So they just have the cannons there lined up, and they read this thing, and they like wait for a minute. Oh, I guess they don't want to accept. All right, shoot the cannons.
That's funny.
So that's my favorite like, canon law.
yeah. Just totally cover your ass kind of legality kind of stuff. Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, to the point of like, who are you fooling? Like, what do you think you're doing? But
there must be some, some rule or something in the thing that they can't be aggressive, or I don't know. So,
Right. Yeah, I'm sure there's something like that. But at a certain point, it's like you probably don't even need to do this, guys. You can just tell people you're doing it if it really matters. But
sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, which maybe they did that, but that's the story. Okay, so we'll do the next question here. This is from Born to Ready. How do you guys feel about the socialist mayor who was elected in Buffalo, New York?
So this is you can tell this is an old question because she lost.
Okay.
Yeah, India Walton.
Well, she sucks, obviously, if she lost.
Yeah, this is actually, I guess some socialists are upset about this, but like, she won the Democratic primary against the incumbent mayor, I guess, and India Walton, and she, and so people were kind of celebrating, being like, okay, she won the Democratic primary, it's Buffalo, she'll win, kind of thing. So she'll like remake the city in the image of socialism or whatever kind of stuff, whatever, and that was kind of like a big win for them. So what happened is the incumbent mayor ran a write-in campaign and basically got a judge to put them on the ballot, kind of thing. Like the judge, there was like a law or something like that, in their election law, they had like certain deadlines and stuff. So they had broken the deadline because they lost the primary or whatever, right? So the judge changed it so that he could run, and he won in the general election. Like he won the write-in or whatever against thing, which I can kind of understand people being like, oh, that's kind of unfair because that's the rules of the rules. If it went the other way, they would never allow that kind of thing or whatever, right? That in general kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's hard to it's hard to kind of get mad at the fact that like the person people wanted one kind of thing or something like that. You know what I mean? It's like you can kind of if it did happen the other way around, I'm not sure that, you know, people wouldn't be complaining about that it was unfair or something like that. You know, they'd be like, well, that's democracy. You got to win or you don't, kind of thing, right? So, so I don't know, but it was sort of like a thing of like, okay, we're taking on this machine. We're like going to have a mayor that's fighting for working class people in Buffalo that, you know, they could use that, and then they face planted in the election. So, yeah, so I don't know. That seems to be the big thing now in terms of the fact that Bernie lost. There's like a pivot towards local people being like, okay, we need to. You know, the problem with Bernie is that he was sort of like a relic of this old system where he was like a, you know, just a unique individual where he powered on for decades when no one cared, kind of thing, right? So that was helpful to have him there to be able to run campaigns for president and stuff. But people are saying, well, we don't have like a deep bench. We don't have all these people that we can draw on across the country. We need to start winning all these like state seats and all this kind of stuff to actually make any sort of changes. We have to grind away at it, kind of thing.
Yeah, keyword win, right?
Yeah. So that's the thing. They are winning a lot of different like local seats and stuff like that, but I don't know. It's a grueling process, kind of thing, right? So you're going to lose a lot, sure, and it's very, very easy to overstate things, kind of thing, right? So, I mean, if you're working on it and you're excited about it, you're going to be like, we're going to change the country. We're going to, you know, revolutionize Buffalo or something like that. It's like,
and you probably have to think that way.
Yeah,
to actually be motivated. Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyway, so they're sort of in a phase now where they're trying to find new avenues of excitement. And there's also sort of like a parallel thing happening of like, you know, circular firing squad kind of stuff, you know, where like everyone is fighting each other about different things, and sort of like, you know, the bureaucracy of DSA is like all the different people with different working groups and different locals and all this stuff are all fighting each other in different ways and getting angry, and that's just a standard. It's really it's sad in a certain way because it's just like, you know, we're talking about a very small organization. I mean, people think that like 100,000 people is a huge amount. That's not really, for a national organization, that's not like, it's really interesting and important for like socialism, but it's not like, you know, that would be like maybe a handful of churches or something like that kind of thing, you know, like it's a tiny sort of movement in itself kind of thing. So, you know, all the internal debates and stuff like that are really, no matter what your opinions on them are, kind of more like, you got to take a step back here and not really, you know, calm down a bit. I don't know. So, yeah, it's sort of like a downward swing period. So that's just what's going to happen. As it swings up, then you're going to get a bunch of people. I mean, if it does, then
yeah. So buy the dip, people.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. DSA is kind of like a compost pile. You throw all your trash in it, and it ferments or whatever, decomposes. But then it's fertile soil,
sure,
or whatever. I don't know how compost piles work, but
sure.
Something like
that.
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the next one from Sami is, what is the scariest monster from movies or other fiction? So we have some emoji reacts to this. We got Cosby. We got, I think that's Hillary Clinton, a shark, a Donkey Kong, and an octopus. So not sure. I guess Donkey Kong is supposed to be King Kong. Shark is supposed to be Jaws. I don't know what the other ones are.
I'm not sure. Do you have any opinions?
Scariest monster.
Black Panther.
Yeah, it's got to be Black Panther. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really. Yeah, I'm gonna say it's that. Only a few people know what I'm talking about, I think. But like the enemy and the villain in Wonder Woman 1984. No, I don't know. So.
Okay.
The Spanish guy, Pedro, whatever.
All right, that does sound pretty scary.
Yeah.
Not as scary as the Black Panther, but getting there.
It's yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not really into horror and stuff.
Yeah, me either.
I guess the Aliens, if I'm gonna give like the the old school Aliens movies.
Sure. Yeah.
Those are pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the next one's from Not Self. Why listen to a podcast instead of an audiobook? Well, they're different, you know?
Yeah.
I like audiobooks, but it's reading a book. So like it's a really different thing. It's like someone has organized some thoughts and is trying to give you like a long form, whether it's, nonfiction or fiction, it's kind of the same thing. Like it's one person laying out some organized thinking, basically. A podcast is often more than one person, and it's unorganized thinking most of the time. So like that is more like casual. It's more fun. I think it's better if you just are like trying to relax and not think too much about it. But audiobooks are good for, if you're trying to learn something, I guess. Not to say podcasts are bad at that. There are some podcasts that are very good for that too. But in general, like the idea of like a podcast, I'm thinking of like, just people goofing around.
Yeah, I don't think I've listened to many audiobooks. I don't know. I've listened to like a lot of lectures and stuff and watched a lot of like lecture YouTubes, but pure audiobooks, I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't listened to too many, but the ones I have, I thought were really good. I thought it was really useful.
Sure.
All right, so the next one we got, this is like a follow-up to the favorite canon lawyer question. It says, this is from Caucasian with blonde mop he him. He says, Don, who are your favorite saints? You get asked that quite a bit. I feel like we've had this question come up a few times, and I'm getting the impression that Catholics just like to trade saint cards, like baseball cards or pogs or something.
Yeah, I guess there's like thousands of them and stuff, so it's just
Sure.
there's a lot of like...
deep lore.
I don't know. I still check the Saint of the Day calendar and stuff like that. Like all the different like.
There's enough for each day, I guess, huh?
Yeah, and like traditionally there'd be like feasts for different ones, right? So, there's certain ones that are like, you can just check each day what the different ones are, and it's funny because most of the names are unintelligible to English speakers like me. So, though I mean they're from, a lot of them are from like the Middle Ages, right? So it's like all it'll be like, I don't know, it'd be like something like Scott or something like that, but it'll be like spelt like SKYTO or something like very like they're not like names that we are familiar with at all, kind of thing.
Booflewolf or something like that.
Yeah. So it'll be strange, and then I just kind of take a quick look at what their lives were like and stuff, and I don't know. I'm not really sure that I have many off the top of my head, but like one of the feasts I like is Saint Joseph the Worker, which is like the traditional Labor Day kind of thing, like workers' holiday. I don't know. I like St. Francis because in my mind he's like some Johnny Depp guy in like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Like he's got his buddy, they go around and like his friends and stuff, and like he seems sort of off the wall. He like talks to animals and all this kind of stuff, and like just he always seems like a bit like a fool for God kind of thing, like just like really off the top, just like out of his mind kind of thing, but like in a way that makes sense at the end of the day and wraps it up with religion and stuff. So I like that kind of stuff. I
like St. Francis too. Hard not to like him, to be honest.
Yeah, and the other thing is that I brought up a lot of times is that the Desert Fathers and like their sort of funny sayings, which are like koans almost, and I really like that collection of the sort of early desert saints and stuff, where people just left and stayed in the desert and in Egypt and things like that. And I don't know, I like those because they're little lessons and stuff, so they're neat. So yeah.
Do you want to make $1 million? I just thought of a great idea.
What's that?
So you know how saints have like those icons and stuff like that?
Mm-hmm.
NFT saint icons.
Yeah. I'm sure that exists in Russia or something like that.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah. Anyone want to run with that? That's fine. Fine by me. Just give me a couple for free or something. I don't know. Well, maybe I shouldn't even
I don't
deal
think
with
so.
that dirty shit.
Yeah, no. I was gonna say that. Like, that seems like exactly against Islam or something.
Yeah,
like that.
never mind.
So
give them to Donald. That's okay.
Sure. Yeah.
We'll split it. We'll
Yeah.
split the winnings. Yeah. Anyway, next one is from Born to Ready. How much of fossil records have been faked in order to undermine people's religious faith?
I knew someone that believed this kind of stuff growing up, and that thought it was like dinosaur bones were like Satan, like put there by Satan and stuff like that. I knew a few people that were sort of in that vein of Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I mean, they were kids and stuff, so it's not like, maybe they don't
Stupid
really believe
kids
that now or whatever. Yeah. So, anyways, but like, I don't know. I always thought that was pretty funny, and like, I don't know. I mean, it's sort of one of those things like, how would you know either way, kind of thing. I don't know. So, I mean, if like the devil somehow planted bones or something like that or whatever, or like if it was all fake kind of thing, I don't know how you would, am I supposed to take like wouldn't they look real or something like that? Like, how would you know that they were fake? Like, was Satan kind of half-assing it by making them look real?
It's just
but it was like
chicken
not
bones.
good enough. Yeah. So, and so I'm not really sure what the logic on that is. But like, if you're just like a secular person or something like that, like, how much is it really gonna? Either way, I mean, how is it gonna actually affect your faith or something like that? Like, are you gonna? I guess it did historically that a lot of people did become non-religious once scientific advances proved a lot of different things that seem to contradict religion or something like that. But like, I guess that's true in general. But like, I don't know. It doesn't seem like a slam dunk case to be like there's bones and stuff. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to incorporate that. Like, we've talked a little bit about my idea of like the Jin Wars and the dinosaurs were like the battle mechs of the Jin Wars and stuff before humanity came. Makes perfect sense to me. I don't see what the real problem is, but
Sure.
Just the logic of this though, like if you think about it, God put Satan on earth to undermine people's religious faith in a certain kind of way, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, he let us he let him in to hang out on earth knowing what his plans were. So to some extent God did that. So if maybe both can be true, maybe the devil then would put the fossil records and fake them to undermine people's faith, but it's actually like maybe the bones are still real, but he's like playing, I don't know, it's like a double cover up kind of a thing. Sure. I don't know. Many layers to this this grand conspiracy.
Yeah, maybe it's even different. Like, like he's just, he's planting things that are like slightly wrong or something like that. Like, there were dinosaurs and all that, but then there's like certain ones are fake, like there was no Stegosaurus or something like that. And it's just to sort of mess with the scientists so they don't know what's real and fake and stuff. So, I don't know.
Yeah, it could go all kinds of ways. All right, so the next one is from CMA 3000. How would your old Marxist selves react if they saw you now? And then we got a follow-up question from Sav, of the Firing Line 2 podcast, I should say. Very fun podcast. How would your old Marxist slaves react if they saw you now?
I don't know. I think that in terms of religion, they'd probably be like, "Oh, you're just suffering from some sort of terrible delusion. Go back to the hospital or something like that." But like, and sometimes I feel like that, so I don't know. But like, in terms of like, I think part of me, maybe like from 2008 or 2009, would be surprised that I'm friends with a bunch of people who are politically like reformist, or even, I guess to some extent, maybe, friends with you, even though we have different views on some stuff and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I had a period where I was pretty gung-ho about certain types of Marxism and stuff. So I thought that anything like that was just garbage or something like that. So in terms of like DSA and all that kind of stuff, I would have been completely shocked that that became popular. It really is strange. It'd be like, to me, it'd be like, I can't even think of like an equivalent. It'd be like if, I don't know, like if the Green Party in the United States had like 4 million members now or something like that kind of thing, or whatever kind of thing. Like just something that like you thought of as like a quaint little weird club kind of thing becoming a major thing or something. So yeah,
I mean, that's sort of how I felt when I saw like the impact font that used to be used on Something Awful, and that just became like the common font usage on memes on like Facebook. People who had no idea what Something Awful was. That's exactly the feeling that I think you're describing there. That's what yeah.
Sure. We haven't mentioned it yet, but we should say R.I.P. low tax. So
yeah, rest in peace to the king. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, so we probably won't do much about that in general, just because it's a sad story, and there's not much
to say, really. Yeah, I feel the main thing that I have is like, oh, it really sucks he has kids. Yeah. And the people that are around to take care. I don't know. The whole situation seems like a mess, so that just kind of sucks. Yeah. The Fragmaster video, I watched that, and it was quite nice.
I thought that was really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had thought about re-registering or like getting my account back on Something Awful to like just say to Fragmaster or something like that, like, oh, this was nice. And then I thought, no, there's just going to be like thousands of other posts there that are just like, he's not going to read all of them. Right. And there's not going to, there's going to be like thousands of other posts that are just like Teen and Orb and stuff. So I don't know. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah. So for me, for my old Marxist self, I don't really know. I think depends on what particular old Marxist self you're talking about. I kind of like was cycling through ideas pretty quickly, trying to figure out how I felt about things and finding, I don't know, I was always like trying to approach things from different angles. I'm like, okay, this is how you think about it this way, move on to the next thing. I think if they were being kind of critical and maybe judgmental, they would kind of see me as like having regressed a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't think they would care about the whole religious stuff too much, really. That was never something I've had like super strong feelings against or anything. But maybe just like not being as like gung-ho about political stuff, and having like I had more conviction in the idea of like socialism than I do now. So
sure.
Maybe they'd be disappointed by that or something.
Sure.
But you don't know what I've been through.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say, like, just tell them what the last 10 years were like. Or something like that. And be like, okay, well, maybe. Yeah.
And then my old Marxist slaves, I wish I could meet them again. I miss them so much.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'd both just be overjoyed and in tears, just hugging each other. And yeah.
Yeah, I feel like this is a misleading thing. I've only ever had one slave. So it's like, it's not slaves. It's one guy.
Yeah. Or maybe you had other
Yeah.
slaves, but they weren't Marxist. You only had one slave that was Marxist.
Sure. Yeah.
Who, of course, had to go, being too dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah, I deserve 100% loyalty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, so moving on. Next question is another one from Sami. Is Canada the ultimate boomer country? I'm not sure why Canada would be the boomer country, really.
I think I get what he's saying, kind of. I think is that like I don't know. I think the sort of suburban model kind of thing of like where you got the house and the car, and everyone lives in these that sort of family unit kind of thing, and got like sort of boring jobs or whatever, and not much to it or something. I get that. Yeah, I think that's true for Canada. Yeah, it does seem like a boomer country to me in a lot of ways. But I think that we actually came up with that as like a thing. Like,
Oh yeah.
I think it was like a Canadian researcher or something like that, or someone that came up with the, or maybe this is all retcon, but like there's something like they wrote a book called something like Boom, Bust, and Echo, and it was like about the boom generation, which is like boomers, and then the bust generation, which is like I guess Gen X and all that kind of stuff, and then Echo, which is like the millennials, I guess would be, where it's like the kids of the boomers and stuff. So I don't know if that's where it comes from or if that like boomer comes from. I mean, baby boom was before that, but like
isn't that where boomer comes from? Baby boom, like
it does, but like so I think that's where it comes from. But like there's something about that like generational stuff or whatever where they were influential and like kind of crystallizing that into something kind of thing instead of just it being an abstract kind of thing. So
yeah, I see what you're saying. I still think it's kind of a tall order to say that like Canada or any other country other than the US is like the ultimate boomer country. It seems really America centric.
Yeah, I think it's like in terms of like a cultural thing. If in this, I think in Sammy's question, it's sort of like comparing Canada to individual states or something like that, like Canada as a state kind of thing, instead of like it's not like Canada versus America. It's more like Canada versus like with California. California is probably like a boomer state kind of thing or something like that, or like in a lot of ways, or it used to be. I mean, but maybe not as much now because of all the white flight and all that kind of stuff. But like. I don't know. Like Florida is a boomer state.
Is the one that comes to mind for me. Yeah.
Sure. So, but you got to think that like there's a million Canadians in the United States, and a lot of them are boomers. So yeah.
I was thinking maybe Switzerland would be a good candidate, but maybe it's not so much boomer country as like HOA country or something. They have so many like strict laws about like really minor kind of social niceties and stuff.
Sure. And Japan is also sort of like a boomer country in terms of like the age cohort and stuff.
Yeah, and also along the lines of that Switzerland stuff, that
sure.
Not as crazy about it, but definitely more so than like the US, I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I guess what would be the opposite of that would be like maybe some African countries and stuff where it's like 50% kids or something. So
yeah, Nigeria or whatever those countries are that are the next big thing.
Yep.
The Zoomer countries. Yeah, okay. So the next one's from Andy, and he's saying, how many of y'all like sex? So based on the reacts to this, we got 5 X's, 6 haram emojis. Not many of the people in our Discord, I guess.
Sure. Yeah, there's other podcasts for that.
We may have the most asexual podcast.
Sure. Yeah.
Which I'm proud of that. I think that's good.
Sure.
Yeah, okay. Squaladozy says, who is and isn't gay in the Balkans? Nobody's gay in the Balkans. Does not exist.
Yeah. That's more like a myth, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we've ranked the Balkan groups before, haven't we?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
Oh, Leo has some input on here. He said Croat gay and Albania gay. That seems fair. That seems fair.
Aren't Albanians Muslim mostly?
Yeah. So, actually, they are Muslim and also Catholic.
Okay.
Yeah. So actually, prime real estate for not really for the North American Islamo-Catholic Emirate, but some sort of Islamo-Catholic Emirate.
Sure. Yeah. Maybe that's why Albanian socialism worked so well.
Mm-hmm.
Just there was like it was like rich soil.
Yeah.
So
perfect synthesis. Yeah. So Donjel asks, what's up with the Taliban? I think they're just chilling. Just doing their thing right now. This was asked in late June again. So.
Yeah, so a lot of things have happened since then. and we did a long episode on it and stuff. So
that one Taliban guy that was on Twitter doing all the epic meme stuff seems to have disappeared. So I don't know what's up with that.
Yeah, and I'm not sure. I got a fundraising email from a Catholic charity talking about Afghanistan, and they said a remote region of Afghanistan. I didn't click through, but I kept thinking, like, so are they like under the aegis of the Taliban? Like, you know what I mean? Is it like, or is it like one of the small regions that's not under their control or something like that? Like, I was trying to think of, like, I don't know, like there's certain people that, like, you know, are they like nuns there or something? Like, are they like
also like remote? Describing a part of Afghanistan as remote, like if you're kind of going by like Canadian or American standards, that's like the next town. You know, like everything is remote, but there are some places that it's like you're not getting there without like a 12-week journey on a donkey up a mountain or something, you know?
Well, I was trying to think if it's like, I was like, are there still spots like the Panjshir or something like that where, like, are there still things like that where, like, they're not under Taliban control, or like, or is it like they allow aid workers and stuff? And if then it's kind of like, I don't know, like what percentage of those aid workers are spies and stuff like that? I don't know. Like, you start to think about that kind of stuff. It's like, you know, how many of those nuns became nuns in the past year or something? Like, I don't know. Like,
like Blackwater's training nuns in some camp out there with like a bunch of like church donation money. Yeah. Who knows? That's
the kind of thing where, like, you know, that's a different breed of human or something like that, like a saint or something. Like, just being like, I'm gonna go off in the middle of a, I don't know. So, yeah, I don't know. And yeah, whatever. So,
okay.
Yeah.
All right. So the next one is from Gerald. Well, ironic username on Discord, but Gerald, as we know. Were the anti-postmodernism people right? So I'm thinking that this is talking about people who, I mean, Jordan Peterson is the first name that comes to mind, but there are better people, I think, on that sort of angle. But essentially the idea that, like, postmodernism, like, eroded the cultural, like, the culture or something, and created like this monoculture that's corporate dominated and all this kind of stuff. That seems like kind of off base and doesn't really line up with the facts, in my view. So I tend to kind of not really agree with this. I think there are some more valid sort of criticisms of specific, like, postmodernists. You know, like the French people that were all about, like, lowering the age of consent or eliminating it and all that kind of stuff, and how some of them were supported by NED and CIA and these types of things because they sort of were, like, not aligned with, like, communist parties and stuff, but they were, even though they were, like, self-professed communists or revolutionaries or socialists or whatever the case, and but they just weren't aligned with, like, the organized labor movements and stuff. So that was something that our governments saw as useful to promote. So that doesn't necessarily mean that their theories are bad or tainted, or that they're just inherently, like, agents or something like that. But it's something that's worth understanding about the, you know, where they come from historically.
Yeah, I think that the question is probably more about, like, identity politics gone wild kind of stuff, you know, like all the different, like, not so much like the culture as a whole, but sort of the fact that, like, you know, you've got, like, you know, this shift from class issues in general to, you know, politics around gender and race and all this kind of stuff. Maybe I think that's part of it, and I would say, like, 5 years ago or so, I thought, or 6 or 7, I thought identity politics was great, and I thought that, like, the sort of the trend in the United States around identity politics was fine, and everything was, you know, there was no problems there. I thought that people complaining about it was just all under the Campus Crazies banner of, conservatives and leftists and stuff that just like playing that kind of angle kind of thing.
Yeah, and it turned out you were completely correct.
Yeah, I think that like what has happened is it was taken up by liberals as like a bludgeon to silence people that disagree with them and stuff like that, and as a very easy tool to reward people or deny them what they want, and based on their relation to capital and all that kind of stuff. Doesn't make the theories wrong, as you said, kind of thing, but it is like it was obviously sort of weaponized in a certain way to just create a very poisonous debate around it. And
it gave both the right wing and the liberal wing, or whatever you want to call it, exactly what they wanted, and sort of the more substantial or more I don't know, like the better aspects of those ideas get kind of submerged under this like culture war stuff that only serves the bad guys.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think that the reasons why you saw that shift away in the long term from these mass political parties based around one issue, or like not one issue, but like, class issues in general. The reason why you saw a shift away from that made complete sense if you sort of track each step of the process. Like the fact that you had like a Black Panthers and all these other black organizations and stuff to react against the fact that the mainstream of these movements tended to be pretty bad on these issues in different ways. And you had like the mainstream labor that, was in league with racist policies a lot of the time. And you had mainstream political parties that were not delivering 100% on what they said they were going to. And you saw that with feminism as well, where, you had this cultural revolution with feminism in the 60s and 70s and stuff, where women wanted to organize separately to some extent to achieve certain gains, and to that made complete sense to me. I don't see where that was wrong. You can kind of say, well, it went in a weird direction or something, but like, I mean, you could say that about socialism too. So it's not like, you can't really look back to socialism in general and say that everything associated with it turned out great, kind of thing, So like,
sure.
Even if you're like a big champion of stuff like saying, well, it was really bad that the Soviet Union collapsed and all that kind of stuff, I think that's fine. Most people would even agree with that, I think, maybe to some extent, but like, on the left at least. But like, then, there's this strange kind of, I don't know, gloss that's being put over a lot of that stuff, where it's like, well, as if we have to choose between identity politics and whether the Soviet Union is resurrected or something like that. I don't know. So, I don't know. It's a strange debate. I don't know. So, but I do want to like get back more into reading about like anti-racist stuff and feminist stuff and that too. I want to read more about it in the future, because like, I shouldn't let people that have like dumb or aggressive opinions and stuff kind of define what I believe, kind of thing, So I don't know. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's so true today, maybe more than it ever has been, because it's so easy to just interact with that kind of stuff. All you got to do is like open your phone and there's a bunch of people screaming at you about how evil you are for this or that. And it's very easy to get sucked into that. You see that all the time if you're on Twitter.
Sure.
In this kind of political stuff. Like,
yeah, people
are basically not really thinking about anything except what this imagined enemy of theirs is thinking, and how they're the opposite of that.
Sure. Yeah. A lot of people seem to be going off the deep end with this kind of stuff in all the different types of directions. Like, even just, there is this strange thing with Twitter where like, or social media in general, where like people feel like they're little spokespeople or something, kind of thing. Just like thousands of people that are spokespeople for things. And like you saw this with like the Kyle Rittenhouse stuff, like where everyone had to, like you just saw thousands of people just basically lining up saying like what their opinions were about different things in different ways, in general, kind of thing, just being like, do you believe that the system can be reformed at this point or something, stuff like that. Just like, I don't even know who that's for. Like, I don't know. Do they know a lot of people they disagree with or something like that? I don't know. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. So it ends up being pretty. comes off as cheap to me at this point. A lot of that stuff back and forth. It just I can't understand how people are dwelling on it in different ways. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I mean, don't argue with the shadow people.
Yeah. Yeah. Why don't we wrap up there for today, and then
sure. Okay.
Yep.
So yeah, hopefully you liked the sound of our plans for the future that we outlined in the beginning of the episode. Again, I'm really welcoming feedback. So positive or negative, let us know what your thoughts are on that kind of thing. And thanks for listening. If you want a weekly episode of You Can't Win, you can subscribe to our Patreon. You'll get that for $5, as well as access to our Discord. And we don't plan on changing that at any point, by the way. That's kind of what we're going to stick with for the time being. And if you want to send us questions anonymously, you can do that by going to the Twitter account at YouCan'tWinPod, and you'll find a link to the Curious Cat pin there. Although I do think we're going to stick with Discord questions for a while, so if you really want to make sure that we answer your question, you need to submit that through the Discord. So yeah, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you again next time.
Yep, thanks guys. Bye.